It may well be that, regardless of why these ETIs are allowing themselves to be held in federal custody, they are well aware that at this stage in our development, we are not yet ready for first contact. If that is the case, we can probably assume that our guests will not start talking to us anytime soon. And if that is the case, there is probably a good reason.
Welcome to Billy's Books. Today it's Duplicate Multiple Billies. I'm Billy DeShand, or Billy D. This is Billy Youngwood, or Billy Y.
Why indeed?
Why indeed?
Why indeed?
And that's a great question because I'm reading this book because he suggested it.
It's true.
That's the only reason. So basically, it's a science fiction book. It's one of the classic page turners where we the aliens come to Earth and we don't know the government's hiding them, and B, they don't know what to do with them. The usual thing.
Yeah.
Are they gonna kill us? Are we gonna kill them? That seems less likely than are they gonna kill us?
But you never know.
Oh, we don't know.
We can't know. War of the Worlds, common cold. We don't know. Yeah.
So at the beginning, anyway, the troublemaker that we don't see for a long time is Niels Ortega.
Yes.
And the story is told, at least in this book, through his daughter Cora Ortega.
Yes.
And we meet some of the other members of the family. We meet Cora is an older sister. She has two much younger siblings who she feels kind of like she needs to protect.
Yeah.
And then she has a mom and an aunt. And the mom and aunt are in various degrees of caught up in this too. The aunt much more than the mother. So yeah, so this is basically sometime
2007. Yes, it's set during. It's like an alternate history.
Yeah.
It's sort of like he gives a sort of alternate explanation for some of the things that were going on back then with the economy and politics and all sorts of fun stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like 2007. They're like, "There's a bad economic thing coming." Oh
no!
Well, that happened.
It's 2020 something or other.
I think it's just 2020 or 2021.
Yeah, 2020.
So this is a period piece.
Yeah, period
from the
piece.
naughties.
Alternate, yeah, naughty. It's a naughty alternate history.
So so Bush is. Do they say Bush?
Yeah. Bush is in there. Yeah, so it's got some real politics going on. It's got some intermingling of fact and fiction. Perhaps
they have cell phones, but not smartphones.
Not smartphones yet. No, we haven't quite crossed that divide yet.
They're still calling each other on burners and stuff like that. But if they want to check the internet, they have to go inside into the living room
and get on a computer. Yeah,
can do it that way. So that's different. That is still much like it is. There's one point here I noticed that they still have cell phones but PC internet only, and also they have Circuit City.
Circuit City, yeah, features fairly prominently in the opening chapters.
Young children, Circuit City went the way of Radio Shack.
What's a Radio Shack?
A Radio Shack goes back to World War II, but the TV.
You're right. Yeah. Wow.
But or even earlier.
Perhaps, yeah.
Perhaps. But Radio Shack was a chain like Circuit City that sold electronics.
Before you bought all your electronics with your electronics on the internet.
The aliens come, and first contact is a while back. We'll be nice and vague about that.
Sure, yeah.
But first communication, I'm going to go out and blurt out and say, is with Cora.
Yes.
And so the first communication is with an alien, and she is, of course, very scared of them because they're very intimidating. And he kind of implies, well, you guys are scary.
Yes.
So here's a quote. "I would have sought another planet. I do not know why they," who's they? "I do not know why they chose to seek asylum on a worn-torn planet populated by 7 billion flesh eaters." So that's a little bit. That reminds me.
That's heavy stuff, yeah.
So maybe they're a little bit scared of us.
I think they are a little bit scared of the people. They're I'm trying to think. Like I don't think it's any sort of a spoiler really, because I think it's sort of at the heart of what's going on here. Is that we talk a lot about the post-human, right? And this is an alien species which has had its sort of own post-human moment, and they're hybrids of organic and synthetic materials. And so their perspective on everything basically is very, very different from ours, because they haven't been like us for a long time.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that they're probably, I think that they didn't even evolve. They probably evolved from some kind of herbivore, I suppose. So so flesh eating is kind of a big taboo.
Yeah, for sure. Them. When the aliens gathered there, we're gonna maybe give it a little bit more away. The aliens heard about Earth, but they did their intel or recon like 1,000 years ago.
Several, sometime in the Middle Ages or something like that. Yeah.
So their intel is not just flesh eaters, but kind of psycho savage theocrats,
and not as many of us as there are.
Oh yeah,
now. Right. Not quite as many.
So they came back and they were like, "Holy shit, they've got nukes!"
Yeah,
and there's so many more of them.
They're very surprised. They're very confused that we made as much progress as we did in the amount of time that we did, and that scares them as well.
Right,
because it doesn't gel with their experience of themselves.
Right.
Yeah,
that's scary. I'm also reminded of the comic book. There's a comic strip I saw, a one-frame comic a long time ago. You've seen it. These two aliens, they get off. They can see their spaceship in the background. They walk up, and they see a crucifix statue, like Jesus nailed to the cross, and they're like, "If this is what they do, they're gods. Let's get the hell out of here."
Oh, God. I think I have seen that. Yeah,
it's one of my favorites.
Well, yeah, and that kind of thing is sort of at the heart of what the book, and then the rest of the books in the series are really about, is how can you have communication between intelligences that are so vastly different, both not merely in terms of really say like super intelligence and human intelligence and things, but just different intelligences with different experiences and perspectives on the world. Can they communicate and relate in a meaningful way at all?
Yeah.
Or is there always going to be some inherent barrier?
Great question. Yeah. So this is all very heady stuff we're talking about, but this is actually quite the page turner.
Oh yeah, it's super. I think I want to say that I read it in 3 days, 4 days maybe. It definitely gets its hooks in you, and then it's very action-packed.
It's really action-packed. It's just like, suddenly, they're arguing about something small and something blows up and they're like, oh, there's a big hole in the wall. What do I do? Run away. Yep. You ran away and you're being punished for running away when the building is blown up? That doesn't seem fair.
No.
Kind of a cross-country chase.
A little bit of a road trip kind of thing going on, yeah.
Almost abduction, but not quite.
Not quite, yeah.
So, yeah.
Pseudo abduction.
Anyway, I don't want to give too much.
Don't want to give too much away.
So I'm enjoying this book. It's a good page turner that has big themes. Any other thoughts?
No, I'd highly recommend it as well. And,
okay, that's why you recommend it to me.
Yeah, indeed, and I would recommend it to anybody that likes this kind of thing. Maybe that's you.
If you can't do, review. All right, so we're going to have a little bonus section. Billy and I just went to see Megalopolis last night. What do you think of it?
It is one of the weirdest, multi-$100 million movies I've ever seen and think I will am very likely to see. It is. I'm remembering a review that somebody made on Twitter of one of Paul Schrader's more recent films, where the review is just, that is some of the latest style I have ever seen.
Wow, it's praise.
Very, very. It's very well. It's interesting because I've been thinking a lot more about it since because I really felt like sort of bewildered, watching it and then walking out of it. But as I've had more time to sit with it, I mean, it's been less than 24 hours probably. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing more sort of like connections to various other earlier works in his filmography, sort of echoes not only of his own films but of other films. There's one scene in there which is almost direct reference to a scene very early on in the film The Red Shoes by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger. There's a visual allusions to The Godfather and things that are very much like Tucker, A Man in His Dream. Do you remember remember that movie
No, I
that
think I saw
Coppola
it.
did? It's like 1989, 1990. It's got Jeff Bridges. It's about the guy that built the Tucker torpedo automobile, and Detroit tried to destroy. You know, him. This is a theme throughout Coppola's career: is people going out with their own idea, and then people coming to stop them because it sort of disrupts things. You know,
Wow, that's kind of meta for this
it's a
production.
little sort of meta, you know. And he had the whole thing with American Zoetrope Productions in the '70s, trying to strike out and do their own thing. He did again. Well, the director's company, him, Bogdanovich, and William Friedkin had a special deal that they were going to be able to greenlight any movie that they could make any way they want, as long as it was less than $1 million or something like that. That collapsed, because of personalities.
And that's a pretty serious constraint, too.
Yeah, I mean, in the early '70s, maybe not as much, but I mean, like The Conversation couldn't have cost more than $1 million. You got Gene Hackman in San Francisco. I mean,
right.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's such an interesting movie, and it's not playing by the narrative rules and logic of like realist Hollywood mainstream filmmaking. It's very allegorical. It is very much a fable. So it doesn't really. I mean, it's
pretty surreal.
It's very surreal, almost psychedelic in many sequences. And I was sitting there kind of like I was trying to judge it because are these character motivated? Like, does this make sense in terms of it? And then I started to go, I mean, like, okay, Aesop's fables. They don't ask about motivation of the anthropomorphized animal. Why am I asking about the psychology of any of these characters? They exist to represent ideas.
They're symbols.
Yeah, it's highly symbolic. I mean, people are having conversations about the evolutionary origin of humanity over cards.
Yeah,
it's not.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. I really I wasn't sure, but I really liked it. Yeah, I think I need to see it again. Just to sort of because I want to soak in more of that weird energy.
Yeah.
Very weird energy.
You want weird? Include Adam Driver.
Oh yes.
He's
Well,
pretty
and Aubrey Plaza, and there's a lot of weird Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, sure.
Unfortunately, but also kind of a shit heel in that. Am I allowed to say a term like that?
Word before.
Can we what's going to go over that?
We're just going to keep it.
We're just going to keep it.
It's like
Okay.
HBO. Fuck.
That's one of my favorite episodes of The Wire. What did you think about it?
I found it very confusing,
Yes.
and I find Brian De Palma sometimes to be a little cheesy. I did that too in places, but not other places. It's like, does everything have to be a gangster movie? No, it doesn't. But you kind of made a gangster in places. I guess
Get a little gangster.
So I wasn't as thrilled by it, but I didn't understand it as well.
I don't know that I understand it. I don't know. I might be doing a lot of work for it.
Right, and I was thinking to myself, it is something that people could write papers about.
Certainly.
But I thought, is a movie good just because it's got so much in there that you need to see it more than once?
Not necessarily, but it doesn't hurt.
All right.
I could see people doing midnight screenings of that in about 10, 15 years.
Yeah, for sure. It could become a cult
like
classic.
a cult kind of thing, yeah.
So we got one thumbs up and one
Yeah. Get a little bit, yeah.
All right.
All right.
On that point, we'll stop again. And just for kicks, let's say it again. If you can't do, review.
Review. If you can't do review.
It's the... Okay.